Somewhere in your house, there's something broken that you refuse to throw away. Not because you're cheap. Some part of you believes it still deserves a chance. What if that stubborn refusal isn't nostalgia, it's your brain's oldest survival instinct, quietly fighting a world that's forgotten how to fix anything? Picture this. Your blender dies. You take it to a repair shop, and the guy behind the counter shrugs, honestly, cheaper to just buy new. And something in you resists, not logic instinct. Why does replacing something easier still feel wrong? Here's what's actually happening. Every time repair is made confusing, expensive, or unavailable on purpose, you're being trained not to save money, but to give up. Psychologists call the pattern learned helplessness. When solving a problem keeps getting harder than surrendering to it, most people eventually stop trying to solve it at all. But a small percentage of people don't. In a US survey of over 2,000 adults, 84% supported forcing manufacturers to provide repair parts and manuals, and more than half admitted they'd replace something sooner than they wanted to, simply because they couldn't find anyone willing to fix it. That's not a coincidence. That's a population quietly furious at a system built to make giving up the default setting. You've probably said some version of this yourself. I don't mind fixing it, but somebody has to make it possible first. Or the quieter version, I hate paying more just because repair was made inconvenient. Notice what's missing from both sentences. Neither one mentions price. They mention access. And that single distinction changes the entire story we tell about people who repair. So if it's not really about the money, what is it about? You know that friend who tosses the toaster the second it sparks? Now think about yourself, popping the back panel off just to see what's wrong. That's not stubbornness. That's a different operating system. Researchers studying consumer repair behavior found something interesting. When companies simply made repair easier, not cheaper, easier replacement rates dropped. And the effect was strongest in people who were naturally detail-oriented and methodical. In personality psychology, that trait has a name: conscientiousness. But there's a second force at work. The moment you put labor into something, your brain quietly inflates its value. It's called the endowment effect, and it's why a lamp you rewired yourself feels worth more than the identical one still in its box at the store. So the fixer mindset isn't thrift. It's a brain that gets more reward from solving a problem than from consuming a solution. And here's the flip side that proves it. The same research found that low repair rates for things like smartphones weren't only about cost or difficulty, they were predicted by desire for novelty. Some people replace because they're chasing new. Restorers simply aren't wired to chase it the same way. They're not anti-new, they're pro-earned. Which raises a stranger question: why does that reward feel less like satisfaction, and more like something emotional? Think about an old family watch. If you replaced every gear, every screw, every part inside it over the years, is it still the same watch? That question has a name. Philosophers call it the ship of Theseus. And your brain answers it every single day, without asking permission. Here's the psychology. The longer you own something, the more it stops being an object and starts being a timestamp. Losing it doesn't just cost money, it costs a piece of continuity. In one striking study, people were asked whether they'd rather get their exact laptop back after losing it, or receive a brand new identical one for free. Most chose the old one, and the longer they'd owned it, the stronger that preference became. The object had absorbed something the replacement simply couldn't replicate. That's loss aversion wearing a disguise. You're not afraid of losing a thing, you're afraid of losing the version of your life it was attached to. And for a lot of restorers, this instinct wasn't learned in a lecture hall, it was learned at a kitchen table, watching a parent patch, mend, or improvise instead of replace. When repair is modeled early, it stops being a decision. It becomes a reflex, inherited the same way an accent is. So repairing an object isn't really about saving the object at all. It's about refusing to let a chapter of your own story get thrown away with it. But continuity alone doesn't explain the satisfaction, the actual pride you feel when the thing finally clicks back to life. Hour 3. Hands covered in grease. 3 failed attempts already behind you. And Amazon is 1 tap away. So, why do you keep going? Self-determination theory says humans have a core psychological need for competence proof that we can act on the world and change it. Buying something new gives you a product. Fixing something gives you evidence you're capable. Those are not the same feeling, and your brain knows it. There's also a neurological reward tied to focused, hands-on problem solving, the kind of deep concentration psychologists call flow. Unlike scrolling, unlike shopping, flow requires just enough difficulty to fully absorb your attention, and the payoff, when it finally works, hits differently. Self-determination theory actually names 3 needs repair satisfies at once. Competence, I can solve this. Autonomy, I didn't need to depend on a store. And relatedness, the object itself becomes part of your personal history, not just the possession sitting in it. Buying something new only ever touches one of those 3. One study on right to repair attitudes found something telling. People with a stronger intention to repair reported higher emotional self-assurance and satisfaction, not just lower spending. That's the part no ad campaign can sell you. A store-bought replacement can make your life more convenient, but it can never make you feel more capable. Only the repair can do that. So what happens when this instinct collides with where culture is heading in 2026? Right to repair laws are spreading. Manufacturers are being forced, country by country, to make parts and manuals available again. That's not a nostalgia trend. That's an entire legal system slowly catching up to something restorers already knew, that ease isn't the same as value, and convenience isn't the same as meaning. Researchers reviewing the field admit the science is still young, but the direction is clear. As slow tech and intentional consumption gain cultural weight, the instinct to repair is shifting from old-fashioned to aspirational. Owning something you've kept alive for a decade is starting to say more about you than owning something you replaced last month. What once looked like stubbornness is starting to look like depth. So maybe you never actually loved fixing old things. Maybe what you've been protecting was never the object at all. Maybe every repair was really an argument, a quiet refusal to let a version of yourself tied to that object get thrown away before you were ready to let it go. The broken thing in your house isn't asking to be replaced. It's asking you to remember why you kept it in the first place. And maybe that's the real reason the fix always feels better than the purchase, because one of them says this is disposable, and the other says so am I not.